Welcome to another episode of the Fan Zone podcast. Your home for all things Bolton Wanderers, up the Trotters, the Northwest's #1 podcast.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Fan Zone podcast. Of course, tonight is a preview show ahead of this weekend's trip down to the capital against Wimbledon. And for those listening on audio, Brandon has pointed out in the chat, it must be a call pod as it's late. Yes, it is a call pod. As you can see, the big un, to quote Jimmy Bullard, is flying solo tonight. But I'm joined, of course, by Chris, as you can see. And Chris has joined us tonight from 9 Years Podcast. Is that correct, Chris?
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, obviously really keen to understand a little bit more about that name before we go any further. Do you want to introduce yourself and the podcast as well and tell us a little bit more?
Yeah, so it was actually my brother's podcast. He set up middle of the 2010s, just before we got promoted the first time, actually. And The 9 years is in reference to how long it took us to go from the Combined Counties Division, which is about step 9, ironically, to back into the league after we had our place stolen, as everybody I'm sure knows, and I won't bore them with.
Yeah, wonderful story. And obviously what I would say about Wimbledon is it's a club that I kind of grew up with as a 90s kid, and a club obviously in the Premiership, as it was referred to back then. There was a bit of a stalwart in the kind of the top tier of English football. So it's really good to see you guys. And I'll always say this whenever I speak to a Wimbledon fan, fighting your way back up the leagues. Obviously this season hasn't been ideal for you so far, to say the least. Started well.
Started really well.
Unfortunately,
there's the other 6 months of the season. I mean, otherwise it would have been great.
That's very true. Very true indeed. We'll get into that, of course, shortly with the season so far. But a massive good evening to each and every one of you so far who's joined us in the chat. Obviously, there's 37 of you watching and listening live as we speak. So please do be kind to me. Obviously, I'm managing the chat on my own tonight. So, I want to still encourage you to get your comments and chat in the chat, of course, and I'll be more than happy to bring them to view, and both me and Chris will dissect them. So if you do have any questions for Chris leading into this weekend's game against Wimbledon, and I will call you Wimbledon, not AFC Wimbledon as well, Chris.
Thanks. It's much the same, yeah.
Yeah, do get them in the chat, and of course we'll have a chat with Chris as well as we go on. But yeah, season so far, so let's get the show on the road, so to speak. Obviously, we've got a few of the regulars in the chat tonight and listening and watching live, but one or two new people. So just kind of give you a bit of an idea. We set the previous show up, of course, to give our supporters of Bolton a bit of an insight into the Sky Bet League One opposition. Of course, in Sky Bet League One, you don't get too much coverage as you would hope. So the floor is yours, Chris, so to speak. Obviously, you guys are sat in 17th in the division at the moment. As we touched upon already, an okay start, a decent start, you might say, but if kind of the wheels fell off a little bit, do you mind giving us a little bit of an idea as to how things have been progressing down in the capital so far?
Yeah, quite a lot did the wheels fall off. I wish we could pinpoint it. Obviously, I mean, we set out with a system to start with, which I think people cottoned onto after a few teams have cottoned onto us, basically how we played. And we're able to nullify us going forward. Not helped by Not helped by Matty Stevens' injury, which kept him out for a while, and he hasn't really found his shooting boots yet since he's come back. And we didn't really have anyone stepping up to fill the gap, really. That's been our main issue, is firepower. We can defend till the cows come home. We went on a cracking run at the beginning of the season. And then when the last time, when that run ended, we were like a point off the top. But it just goes to show how easy I say how easy this division is, but how difficult this division is because everybody's beating everybody else.
Yeah.
But now everybody's beating us instead, which is a shame.
Yeah. Obviously, going into this weekend's game, like every week, as far as the Wanderers are concerned, it's of course a must-win game as we try and get out of this division for the 300th time of asking. Obviously, there's a decent contingent of Wanderers fans heading down to the capital this weekend. I think we saw that our allocation. A lot of them, of course, will be keen to understand who your kind of standout players and performers are going into this game, or not necessarily from an attacking perspective. You said already that you defend very well. Who should we really look out for going into the weekend's tie with ourselves?
Really, the two players I've really enjoyed watching are Hippolyte and Hippolyte and oh my god, his name's gone. I'll come back to him. Hippolyte's been really good, but he hasn't been playing, which is odd. Which is an odd. It's a very confusing way to be because you expect him to be starting every game, but he's become an impact sub. I really like Simwe, who we've got on loan. Possibly going back though is the last thing I heard. He's been good down the right wing, but again, for some reason he hasn't started, which is very odd. We're a bit weak through the middle, so we've been hoofing the ball a lot, and we've been trying to make some decent plays out of it. So one to look for will be Marcus Brown up front. I think he's on 9 goals now, which is for us is impressive given the fact no buggers scoring. And at the back, we've had Joe Lewis and Ryan Johnson at the back, but unfortunately, Lewis got sent off in the last game, so I don't think he's going to feature. But we have Patrick Bauer, who's about 6'10". He's mixed feelings about him, but I'm pretty sure he'll start. We've just got the real danger person we've got at the back is Steve Seddon, who's come back to us. He was with us late 2010s, and he's come back to us for a spell, and he's done really well. And we've just re-signed James Tilley on loan from Wickham. We're looking forward to seeing him play again. He only had a cameo against Rotherham. And similarly, we've got a chap, Nelson, I think Zach Nelson from, I think he's Tottenham. I'll have to apologise for my lack of knowledge. I've literally just walked in the door from work. And we're looking forward to seeing him because, again, he only got a few minutes, but looked good. A lot of fans are pinning their hopes on Junior Nkeng. I think I'm pronouncing it right. It's Nkeng. He's a young player. He was sent out on loan, but he's come back to us. He's showing promise, shall we say. So they're the ones really to look out for.
Yeah, good to see. Obviously, Matthews mentioned that Bo is formerly of Preston. Is that correct?
Yeah? I think he's one of his teams. Yeah, and he's split opinion. We after that first really good run during the season, we seem to be getting turned around a lot at the back. So I mean, forgive me, but I've not watched a lot of Bolton recently. I did go up there in the early 2000s, but that's another story entirely.
Question for you before you go any further. Early 2000s, one game that stands out to me, again, probably showing my age at 38 years old, but still I remember it pretty well, was a game that we played against Wimbledon in the then Worthington Cup. I think it was that was in the League Cup, and Idigo Johnson scored probably one of the best goals I've ever seen live. I think he danced around about maybe 5 or 6 Wimbledon defenders that time. Do you remember that game and that goal well? Just a bit of a
Was that the one we won at yours, or was that?
I was probably a little bit too young to remember the result. I remember the goal more than the result, if I'm honest with you. But yeah.
Because the one I remember was going away in that cup in 96, 97, I think, if that rings a bell. But do you know what? I don't remember the goal because it was so bloody cold and we were stood on that open terrace where the Sainsbury's was back in the day.
Yeah.
And there were about 50 of us and we were huddled together.
Yeah, so you're referring to obviously our old Graham Burnham Park back then.
Yes.
You definitely are showing your age, Chris, with that one.
Hey, you can see me on camera, folks. You know what you're dealing with. I'm an original Wimbledon fan. That's how far back I go now. Which wasn't the case, obviously, when we started. But yeah, I remember, the last time I was at Bolton, that slope that's right outside your ground. I don't know if it's all the way around, but we all tried to walk down it and looked like absolute arseholes because we all fell on them. It was like the cheese. You ever see the cheese rolling thing when they go down the hill? Cheese. Yeah, it was just. It looked like that at the end of it. We looked ridiculous. But anyway, that was the last time I was up there.
Bit of a flashback. Mid-episode. Mid-episode indeed. I have seen a couple of comments in the chat. One specifically about our fans at home booing and mourning. Obviously, 11 minutes in. That one's been brought up by
Hello everybody, welcome back to Get Stats On. We're the Stat Man, and today we're of course going to preview the game against AFC Wimbledon this weekend. 12:30 on a Saturday, not ideal for you, but that means I can actually watch the game somewhat legally. So anyway, let's move on to the footy, shall we? Wimbledon sits 17th in League One with just 32 points. What does that tell you? It needs to be a 3 points for yourselves, I'm afraid. Now, this is an away game, which, of course, is not ideal for you. You've not been brilliant on your travels this season, but I think if you stick with a similar approach to the one you had in the Burton game, I think you'll be just fine. Now, I took some stick for what I said on said review last night, but I would like to point out, you created 6 big chances. Now, yes, I said that last night, but perhaps I didn't emphasise how mental that is. 6 big chances is a lot. For reference, you've created 68 big chances all season. That equates to 2.3 per game, and 6 of them were last night. That's quite a lot. Not last night, night before. You get the point. That is a lot. And I believe Cardiff have created 83 big chances, and that would be the most of anyone. But still, that does not equate to 6 per game. Nowhere near 6 per game, in fact. So that is a lot. And it shows, yes, the build-up was a tad slow sometimes, but you drew them out and you created space for Morley and Dempsey and McAtee to run into. It worked, all right? And you know me, I'll quite happily take any chance I get to have a pop at someone's tactics. But it worked, so fair play. Anyway, let's have a look at Wimbledon, shall we? So as for their attack, their goal scoring is not exactly what you describe as fantastic, with just over 1 goal per game, 1.1 to be exact. But they have scored more than their XG suggests that they should have. So that sort of just tells you that the strikers are quite clinical when they actually get a chance to shoot. Just not enough chances are created. When they actually do create a chance, it tends to come from a cross. And with 4.6 per game, just to tell you how much that works, their top scorer, Marcus Brown, has scored 5 of his 7 goals this season from inside the box, with the other 2 coming from a counter-attack and a free kick. So he quite likes a cross. And Steve Seddon, I hope I've said that right, is their top assister. And he has put in 42 successful crosses this season, which puts him in the top 3% for midfielders in League One. And for a bloke who plays for the 17th place in the league, that is pretty good. So they like a cross. However, if you're playing your back 5, should be sweet. You've got 3 centre-backs in box to deal with it. And you've got 2 wing-backs who can play a bit wider, who can close down the cross a bit earlier, stop the cross coming in. Sorted. Ye bosh. Anyway, we'll move on to their defensive side of the game then. They concede 1.3 per game. Per game. Which, of course, is more than they score. So that sort of tells you how most games go. Sorry, I'm a bit bunged up here. I can't really speak. And that is with the third most clearances in the league this season as well. So that sort of tells you that they like to drop off into a bit of a low block. So that movement from Morley and Dempsey, if it's them 2 playing, is going to be absolutely blooming crucial. And yes, Burton went for a very interesting man-for-man approach, which can work in certain games. It clearly didn't work for them, because you won. And Wimbledon will probably not do that. But the movement from Morley and Dempsey should still work, because if Morley makes the run out to basically right back, as he did when you were building up, someone has got to go with him. Because if they leave it to the winger to mark him, then Morley will just go inside again and he'll be open. And if a midfielder follows him, there's going to be a gap in the middle, isn't there? So that movement is what you need to see again. I have no idea why you wouldn't stick with that system. Yes, that system was sort of made so you could just play a 4-2-3-1 anyway. But I think you have to stick with that because how many chances did you create, for the love of God? And have we been able to say that for any other game this season apart from maybe Wigan? No, we've not. And one final thing, just before I let you enjoy the rest of the show, their goalkeeper only makes 2.1 saves per 90. So what does that mean? Test the blooming keeper. Get your shots off. And if you create as many chances as you did against Wimbledon, well, it could easily be 6, 7, 8-0. Sorry, I can't believe I've just done that. Turn me off. Enjoy the rest of the show. Goodbye.
Yeah, massively need to apologise for everybody who has got kids, grandkids of a certain age who refer to that 6, 7 malarkey on a daily, weekly, hourly basis like my son does. We aren't really associating ourselves with the Statman tonight following that comment. So, and yeah, to answer Matthew's comment, presumably he knows about Morley now, right? Yes, he does. We were in the chat earlier on, of course, discussing Aaron Morley's departure to Wycombe Wanderers for in the region of shy of £1 million. Be really interesting to get your thoughts, Wanderers fans, on that departure. Of course, does it leave us short? Do you think we invest that money in a midfielder again on number 10 or maybe even a striker? How do you think we address that for the remainder of the transfer window? What do you think about Statman's analysis then, Chris, in terms of his from a distance assessment of course, Wimbledon?
Yeah, I mean, aside from the fact that we won't get 6 or 7, a lot of the lack of goalkeeper saves is because of the lack of shots against, as opposed to the fact he lets them in.
Yeah,
I know this. He's saying about the 1.3. That's skewed somewhat by I think a 5-0 we got twatted at Peterborough.
Right.
Peterborough.
Okay.
So it's slightly skewed somewhat. He's not as bad as the stats suggest, though. Again, he's another one who splits opinion. He can pull off world class saves 1 second and then let in an absolute howler like he did against, I think it was Doncaster the other week in the 90th something minute, and you just you know, it knocks confidence. We've got to rally around him. He'll be fine. Yeah, lack of goals. I mean, I said it even before he came in. That is the problem. Hopefully, maybe another signing in the towards the end of the transfer window would be nice. Somebody can actually score a goal. And the next whip round we're doing at Wimbledon is to see if we can buy Matty Stevens a goal, and that'll set him off, hopefully, scoring loads.
Yeah, interesting question I always like to ask is kind of understands, and something I generally ask a little bit earlier on in the previous shows, but understand your kind of expectation going into the season. I mean, obviously, I'm going to guess it would be survival, be it the first port of call. But did your fan base have any other kind of levels of expectation going into this season, Chris?
If they did, they kept it really quiet. We're a bit, I mean, I don't want to say grounded in reality to some of the other Wimbledon podcasts, maybe one particular. We're a bit more realistic. Our limitations, obviously being fan owned, is we just need to keep our head above water, which we continually struggle to do. Yeah, money is going to be a factor. There are lots of discussions about selling bigger parts of the club, changing our ownership model to do that. But the bottom line was survival, and we're above that line at the minute, the red line. So long may that continue if we can. But no, if anybody else thought this was going to be a breeze, and they weren't here last time when we survived on the last day against Bradford with a 0-0. Yeah. It's a tough division because I treat League One and League Two much the same as people treat Premier League and Championship. It's one division. So we're sort of mid-table in that dual division, I think.
Okay, yeah. So you're about right then in terms of where you are as a club at the moment, based on that. Interesting. Obviously, being fan owned, and I always find this concept pretty fascinating. I know Exeter are in the same kind of boat as yourself in that respect. Obviously, in the midst of a January transfer window, I say in the midst, actually, we're really almost at the end of it, aren't we? But how does that affect you guys? I presume it does rather significantly when it comes to bringing players in.
Yeah, it's pretty much one in, one out. we sold Riley Harbottle also to Wickham. I think it was Wickham. Yeah, it was. No, it wasn't. Bristol Rovers. So he went there, and we also, I want to say sold, but a lot of people say got rid of Danilo Orsi back to Crawley. Yeah, who apparently are just playing the old hits and getting the old team back together. And we apparently made a profit on that, allegedly. But and we've got one loan, and then we've got 2 loans in after that. So possibly one purchase. We're not sure, but it is. We are not at the top table. We're not like you guys. I mean, who can? I mean, the fact. Did you say it was $1 million for your player to Wickham? No.
Yeah, they're in thereabouts. Yeah,
yeah. We dream of that figure. Do you know what I mean? On a regular basis. We have a good youth system that has churned out some good products over the years. We've got a couple of chaps who were snapped up over in I think Saudi Arabia, the new league that came in, so they put some money in, so that kept us going for a bit. That got us up probably last season, but we are forever on that line.
Yeah, but I guess if you're trying to look at it positively, I guess being in London, you'll always be an attractive club for outside investment. If you manage to, survive and build yourself up as a club again into what it was previously. And fingers crossed, you reach them heights, because like I said, I always had a bit of a soft spot for Wimbledon growing
Everybody
up.
Does. Everybody does. Small club gone good, but we, to build it up, because I've been, you guessed from the previous preamble, I've been there from the beginning. I actually worked for the old Wimbledon before as well, and so building up from nothing to now having a ground back, like literally a stone's throw away from the old ground. I won't bore you too much with it, and building up has been great, but we're now at the position where, is it feasible to keep going as we are, given the fact that we're, giving, taking, not being able to pay a lot of money? Yes, we're attractive in London, but even that's got its limitations.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, I bet. But I suppose it's one of them, innit? You got to be a little bit. How long is that? How long is that? The fact that we survived, the fact that we've got our ground back at Player Lane, blah 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 blah. How much is that going to last in terms of the fan base and when you want to kind of progress, I guess? But
yeah, we're doing all right with fans at the minute. We're getting them through the door, and we're averaging between 7,000 and 8,000, which for us, I mean, because we came from Kingsmeadow with 4.5, so we're obviously making improvement. It's always nice to see a well attended away fan base as well. That does help.
Yeah, I think, like I said earlier on, I think I'm not generally too caught up with all the sold out, we must take this many fans, and you're poor if you don't take that many fans kind of debacle. But,
no, but it's that's what I mean. But it's great that we're going to have so many of your lot at the other end. Please spend your money.
Yeah, absolutely, and we're quite fortunate in many respects. I mean, I'm personally, obviously, I live in the northwest, but I'm going down to London on Saturday morning. But we're quite lucky. We've got a decent kind of fan base on a national level as well. We've got a decent kind of London white kind of contingent as well, and kind of a lot of Bolton fans kind of south of Birmingham, which allows us to kind of take decent numbers to the likes of Player Lane. My first visit, which I'm very much looking forward to, one to tick off the list. It doesn't really happen very often these days, which should be good. Chris, have a little think about your injury situation. Why I played the mid roll for the injury update, if you wouldn't mind. So, are you looking, Chris, from an injury perspective?
Well, touch wood, not bad. Now we've got Stevens back. We've been a bit concerned people carrying knocks. I think it's a good time for Joe Lewis to be suspended, because I think he's been struggling a bit. He keeps going down. But other than that, we are, and I touch wood again, fairly healthy. I have not heard. I think the only player that isn't going to feature at all is Aaron Sassu for definite. He's a young player that's been coming through, but he hasn't really had a run. But he's the only one I know who's got an injury, because he's always injured. Other than that, we're doing all right.
So far, so good. Yeah, I'm just looking at your previous 11 in your last game, 4-2-3-1 formation. I don't know how accurate that is on FOTMob, but should be interesting to see how you line up. As far as the Wanderers are concerned, we haven't had our Stephen Schumacher preview ahead of the game, which he obviously does to the press. So we don't really have a great understanding of where we are from an injury perspective. I know Thierry Gale hit the deck towards the end of the last game, but I think it was just cramp, and Ethan Arahan as well falls into the same category, a bit of cramp later on. We've obviously got kind of Taylor, who's injured kind of from a kind of a long-term injury. But yeah, we're doing all right. All okay on the injury front, with the exception, of course, of Mario Cosi-Dubry and Marcus Forss, who are long-term injured players. A little bit of a smirk from Chris there. Presumably you're smirking at the fact that Mario's injured, which is
not a smirk at all. It was actually mentioned. It was actually, because bringing it on to the player I like to nick, one of them is Marcus Forss. He came to us on loan.
Of course.
He was 11 goals in 18, I think. I mean, as a loan player, it was absolutely amazing. So, yeah. It was far from a smirk. It was nice. It was a nice name. It's a shame he's injured because he's a cracking player.
Yeah, he is, and we've only seen it in very, very small doses, actually. I have been reminded in the chat of Josh Sheehan as well. Josh Sheehan has apparently got a bit of a calf strain. He's missed the last couple of games, but he may be back for the weekend, all being well. It's not too lengthy of an injury. But yeah, Marcus Forss, going back to him, of course, played for Wimbledon. I think he scored against us as well for Wimbledon.
Was that the 3? Was it 3-3? Was that the 3?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, been a bit flattered to deceive in many respects. We've only seen his quality in very small doses. Obviously on loan from Middlesbrough. Me personally, high expectations for him at the start of the season when we signed him on loan. I kind of figured that because he scored goals in the Championship, that the step down he'll be quite seamless. But yeah, not really hit the heights that a lot of Bolton fans were to expected. But listen, we've still got a good squad, still got a strong squad. We're all right on the injury front. We've still got plenty of options in terms of kind of through the middle or as kind of in them wide areas. So yeah, hopefully we'll be all right on that front. But you mentioned player swap. Of course, you can pick Marcus Forss, but it probably won't be much of a contributor to Wimbledon. But yeah, have a little think about kind of who you'd like to swap in an ideal world and transfer to Wimbledon during the January window. And if any Wanderers fans can think of any Wimbledon players or you'd like to maybe sign, one or two of you probably think maybe none. I've got one in mind. But yeah, what about yourself, Chris?
Fortunately and very sadly, just because of our lack of goals, if we could get Mason Burstow on loan off you from the loan, that'd be great.
Yeah.
His name crops up a lot on the highlights shows, and I've seen a few bits of him. Yeah, so if we can have him, then that'd be great. Let's get Hull to send him to us instead. That'd be brilliant.
Yeah, and a Southern lad as well, so I'm thinking he'd settle in pretty well, I think, at Wimbledon. But yeah, no, he's very much our player for this season, I think, unfortunately, Chris.
Yeah,
Mason had a wonderful start to the season, scored plenty of goals early on in the season, went through a bit of a hell of a dry spell over the kind of November, December period, but he did score against Leyton Orient recently, so he's kind of back on the goal hunt again. So we are hoping that that will continue. I think he might start at the weekend as well. I think he only kind of got brought on for 10, 15 minutes in the previous game, the victory against Burton Albion. So yeah, I think he might start personally. Maybe in the wide areas as well to give us a bit of a physical presence, because he is pretty comfortable in them wide areas should we play that particular formation. I'm going to go for Marcus Brown. A
lot of people do.
Yeah, I think Marcus Brown would obviously, he's a player that he's got a lot of experience at this level. Obviously, he used to play for Oxford. He can play as kind of attacking midfield as well. Just off the right, obviously we're missing a Mario. We have obviously signed a couple of players to kind of replace a Mario. But yeah, I think Marcus Brown would be a good player, experience, players that can play as a number 10. I think if I was going to pick any player from Wimbledon, it would be him. Right, we're going to move into the predictions. So what's the score segment? Wanderers fans, if you're in the chat, currently 126 people listening and watching live. If you don't mind getting your predictions in the comments, I'll be more than happy to bring them on view. But yeah, Chris, if you could have a little think about your prediction, that'd be great. couple of early predictions. Matthew has said 2-0. He'll go 2-0 and hopefully first half goal as well. David Jones has put in Wimbledon 1, Bolton 3. I'll take any of these so far. Clean sheet would be nice, to be honest. And Radix has put 2-0 to the Wanderers. What about yourself, Chris? What are your expectations going into this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say we'll hold out for a draw. But yeah, I can't really argue with the sort of 2-goal lead. You're having a good run, and we are not. And I think we're going to put more into teams around us. He says, having only got a point from the 3 bottom teams. Well, no, we actually they got postponed against Port Vale, so we've got a point out to 6 from games against Rotherham and Doncaster. So I think we're trying to put more effort into the other games. I mean, we'll obviously put effort in every game, but I think we're more worried about the teams around us. And I've just got a feeling it'll be too good for us on the day. So yeah, potentially 1 or 2-0, unless we have the 2 new signings that can really perk us up a bit, and we manage either a draw or nick a win.
Yeah, I mean, what you're saying makes complete sense. If I'm honest, looking at your fixtures, Chris, obviously you've got Port Vale this coming Tuesday, which is obviously a massive kind of 6-pointer. Looking at that one, it's a must win. If I'm honest, I think if I was a Wimbledon fan looking at that, especially given Port Vale's position in the league table, and then you've got Reading at home, which again should be a game that you should be hoping to try and pick up some points from, I would suspect. Yeah, I mean, Reading are pretty inconsistent, but any home games against teams in and around you-ish, you obviously need to be winning them, don't you?
Yeah. And then especially it's so close. It's so congested in that league. It's ridiculous.
Yeah,
I mean, we didn't play the other night, and we went up a place. That's how ridiculous it is.
Crazy.
So
yeah, and I guess that leads well into the next game after that. Of course, it's a game against another inconsistent team who are very close to a position that they probably don't want to be in. Would be, of course, Barnsley away, which is another pretty big game for you as well, I would think. So, yeah I can see why you're saying that about the fact that you probably focus more on them 3 games as opposed to maybe up against ourselves. Prediction from me. I mean, should we be going into the game against Wimbledon thinking we should win? Yes, with all due respect, Chris. I mean, that nicest possible way. We've not great away from home this season. Probably the reason why we're not in that top 2, if I'm honest. Very inconsistent away from home. I think we sit 10th in the away league table, which isn't good enough whatsoever. That needs to change if we are going to hunt down them top 2 spots, which of course are in touching distance. And I think it will do this weekend. I am going to go for a 3-1. I do think we'll concede, probably from a set piece, because we've been a bit iffy from set pieces recently. But yeah, I do think we should have enough to bring 3 points back to Lancashire. Chris, before I let you go, tell us a little bit about your podcast in terms of where we can find you, when you put out new episodes and whatnot.
Yeah, 90s podcast, if you want to see it. It's out on most of the time every Friday, and wherever you get your podcasts, really. We also put a version up on YouTube, but as I say, it's my brother and his mate Stu, my mate Stu. I normally look after the Twitter, so we also do live updates on there as well. So you can look at us, basically lampoon us for 90 minutes. It's not, it's a little bit more opinionated than your standard that we've scored a goal sort of thing. So
yeah,
if you want something to laugh at, if it's 3 or 4-0 up and you fancy a laugh, then come and see us, flagellating ourselves online.
Any previews ahead of the weekend's game? Have you managed to put one of them together that Wanderers fans can listen to?
Yeah, there will be one out. My brother's doing it. I think that's probably why he's not here doing this. He normally records it tonight and puts it out, so it should be out tomorrow night.
Fantastic. Make sure you head over to the socials. We'll put them in the description, of course, for you to head over and check that out. Tonight's episode, of course, has been sponsored by B2B Workwear and Janitorial. Please do head over to our website, their website, to learn more about the great stuff that the guys at B2B Workwear do to provide top quality workwear to hundreds of businesses up and down the UK. So if you've got a business, if you know someone's got a business, need some clobber, go to them. That'll be my advice. Safe travels to each and every one of the Wanderers fans. I think just over 1,000-ish, I think, going down to London on Saturday. Hopefully we'll bring back 3 points. It's been a pleasure hosting tonight's episode, of course, solo. I hope I've done you all proud. 133 of you have listened and watched live over the course of the last 35 minutes. So please do like and subscribe if you wouldn't mind. Obviously, it helps to get this pod into the eyes and ears of other Wanderers fans, which we're desperate to do, of course. Also, worth mentioning, call yourself a fan. Of course, myself, the big un, as referred to by Jimmy Bullard, which was a bit of a dig, I think, but never mind. And of course, Nathan and Dan went down to the capital to record that show. It's on YouTube. It was brilliant. Obviously, Ralph Little was there, Jason McAteer as well. And of course, we did very well in the quiz. If you've not listened to it, if you've not watched it, I would advise it's a really good laugh. And yeah, give us your feedback. Let us know what your thoughts are. But yeah, wonderful stuff. Thanks very much for your time this evening, everybody. Hope for 3 points on Saturday. And until the next one, we'll see you all soon.
Yeah, unreal. Boys were